The wine glass exploded against the marble floor, red liquid spreading like blood. Amara Okoye didn't move. She stood facing Kang Joon-hyuk, Korea's most powerful CEO, her voice cutting through the boardroom silence like a blade. "Say that again. I dare you." 20 executives froze. In 3 years, no one had challenged Kang Joon-hyuk and survived. But Amara wasn't like anyone he'd ever met. His jaw clenched. "Your translation was wrong." The Chinese delegation said San Jiju. Third quarter. "You heard Sai Jiju because you weren't listening. Don't blame your ego on my competence." The tension was electric. Then something nobody expected. His mouth curved. Almost a smile. Almost respect. "Everyone out. Except Miss Okoye. If you want to see where this impossible love story goes, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications because you won't believe what happens next." 3 weeks earlier, Amara had landed in Seoul with 1 suitcase and 0 expectations. At 29, she'd interpreted for presidents and billionaires across 4 continents. 6 languages. Top of her field. Korea was just another paycheck before grad school. Then she met him. Kang Joon-hyuk was everything the tabloids said. Brilliant. Ruthless. Devastating. At 34, he'd turned his father's struggling company into a $3 billion empire. His engagement to Korea's biggest actress had ended in a scandal 2 years ago. She'd accused him of being emotionally unavailable, married to his work, incapable of love. The breakup nearly destroyed his reputation. He'd rebuilt it by becoming even more untouchable. Their first meeting lasted 9 minutes. His office was all glass and steel, Seoul glittering 30 floors below. He barely looked at her as he outlined the job. International negotiations. Absolute discretion. Start tomorrow at 5 a.m. "Your Korean is adequate?" he asked in Korean, eyes still on his computer. "My Korean is perfect," Amara replied in flawless Seoul dialect. "So is my Mandarin, French, Portuguese, German, and Yoruba. That's why you're paying me triple your usual rate." His assistant Kim Min-ji gasped. But Joon-hyuk finally looked up. Really looked at her. Dark skin. Natural hair in elegant twists. Designer suit she'd saved 6 months to buy. Confidence that didn't ask permission. Arrogance or competence, he asked. "You'll find out tomorrow." Something flickered in his eyes. Challenge accepted. The first week nearly killed her. Joon-hyuk worked like a man possessed. Meetings before dawn, calls past midnight. He tested her constantly, switching languages mid-sentence. Using obscure technical terms. Waiting for her to fail. She never did. During a negotiation with Chinese investors, he made a critical error. Amara interrupted him in front of everyone. "Excuse me." They said process, not success. "Your counteroffer doesn't make sense." The room went silent. Joon-hyuk's eyes went cold. "Are you certain?" "Completely. Unless you want to lose $30 million on a translation error." He held her gaze for 5 seconds. Then adjusted his offer. The deal closed. He'd saved the company millions because she'd had the courage to correct him. Afterward, he cornered her in the hallway. "Don't ever interrupt me in front of clients again. Then don't make mistakes I have to fix. You're paid to translate. Not to embarrass me. I'm paid to save you from your ego. If you can't handle being wrong occasionally, fire me. Otherwise, let me do my job." She walked away, heart pounding, certain she'd destroyed her career. But the next morning, her salary had increased by 30%. No explanation. Just the number, higher than before. Min-ji found her at lunch, eyes wide. "Nobody talks to Mr. Kang like that. Everyone who tries gets fired. Maybe nobody tried hard enough." "No. You don't understand. His ex-fiancée tried. She's blacklisted from every major production in Korea. He destroys people who challenge him. Then maybe I should start updating my resume." But Min-ji shook her head, confused. "He's not destroying you. He's paying you more. I've worked here 5 years. I've never seen him do that." Amara didn't know what to make of it. But she noticed things. The way Joon-hyuk's meetings with her lasted longer than necessary. How he'd pause before responding to her, like he was listening to more than just her words. The way his eyes would track her across conference rooms, then quickly look away when she noticed. The media noticed too. By week 2, photos appeared online. Mystery woman at JH Corporation. Some comments were curious. Most were vicious. Why would he hire an African? Koreans aren't qualified enough. Obviously sleeping with him. What other reason? This is what happens when companies hire for diversity instead of talent. Amara had dealt with racism her entire career. But it still felt like being cut with tiny knives. Over and over. Until you were bleeding from 1,000 invisible wounds. She was reading comments late at night, hating herself for reading them, when her phone buzzed. Joon-hyuk. At 11 p.m. Tomorrow we fly to Busan. Pack for 2 days. Car picks you up at 4 a.m. The Busan trip changed everything. The negotiation was brutal. 8 hours translating between Korean, Mandarin, and English as Joon-hyuk fought for a deal that could expand his empire by 40%. She watched him work with grudging admiration. He was brilliant. Ruthless when he had to be, charming when it served him, always 5 steps ahead. But there were moments when his mask slipped. When someone mentioned family and his jaw tightened. When an older investor talked about legacy and something haunted flashed across his face. The meeting ended at 11 p.m. They climbed into his car, Seoul 2 hours away. Amara closed her eyes, exhausted. Then Joon-hyuk spoke. You don't like me. Her eyes opened. He was staring out the window, face unreadable in the darkness. I don't know you well enough to dislike you. But you would. If you knew me. Maybe. You're not particularly likable. A ghost of a smile. No one's been honest with me in years. Everyone tells me what they think I want to hear. That sounds exhausting. It is. He turned, and in the dim light he looked younger. More vulnerable. My father built this company from nothing. When I was 19, he had a heart attack at his desk. Died before the ambulance arrived. The board tried to push me out immediately. Said I was too young, too inexperienced. They wanted to carve up his empire like vultures. Amara listened, surprised by the sudden confession. I learned that power is the only currency people respect. Fear is the only language they understand. So I became someone they couldn't dismiss. Couldn't destroy. But you're right. It's lonely. Being the person everyone needs but nobody wants to actually know. The confession cracked something in Amara's chest. My mother died last year. Cancer. I watched her disappear over 18 months. After the funeral, I couldn't stay in London. Everything reminded me of her voice, her laugh, her terrible cooking. So I kept moving. New cities, new contracts, new languages. Running from grief disguised as ambition. Does it work? No. But I don't know what else to do. Joon-hyuk nodded slowly. My father used to say success is just elaborate distraction. Work hard enough, you don't have time to feel anything. He paused. He was right and wrong. The distraction works until it doesn't. Until you're sitting in a car at 1 a.m. realizing you've built everything and it all means nothing. They drove in silence after that, but something had shifted. When they reached Seoul at 2 a.m., Joon-hyuk walked her to her building. Unnecessary. Unexpected. Thank you, he said. For being honest. It's rare. Maybe you just intimidate everyone else into lying. Maybe. But not you. I'm too tired to be intimidated. He smiled. A real smile. It transformed his face. Good night, Amara. Good night, Mr. Kang. Joon-hyuk. When we're alone, call me Joon-hyuk. The next 3 weeks were dangerous. Professional distance dissolved into something neither could name. Long work days became longer conversations. Strategy sessions became personal confessions. He started asking her opinion on things beyond translation. She started looking forward to mornings when he'd walk in and his eyes would find her first. He brought her coffee without asking, remembering she took it black with 1 sugar. She started bringing him lunch when meetings ran late, remembering he liked spicy food but never ordered it himself. They developed inside jokes about impossible clients and cultural misunderstandings. Found excuses to stay late when everyone else had gone home. The staff noticed. Minute G looked worried. Other interpreters made pointed comments about special treatment. Executives started directing questions only to Joon-hyuk, ignoring Amara like she was furniture. She'd hear them speaking Korean around her, assuming she wouldn't understand. I give it 2 weeks before she's gone. He always gets bored. At least his ex-fiancée was Korean. This is just embarrassing. One afternoon, Director Park cornered her in the break room. He was senior board member, old money, old prejudices. Miss Okoye. Some advice. His smile was condescending. Korea is very traditional. We value discretion, propriety. I'm sure in your culture things are different, but here we have expectations about professional boundaries. The media attention reflects poorly on Mr. Kang's judgment. Perhaps you should consider whether this position is truly appropriate. Amara's hands clenched around her coffee cup. Are you asking me to quit? I'm suggesting you think about what's best for everyone. You seem like a smart woman. You understand how these things work. That night, she almost packed her bags. Almost walked away before things got worse. But she was tired. Tired of being told she didn't belong in spaces she'd earned. Tired of shrinking herself to make others comfortable. Tired of running. The breaking point came at a company celebration. A major deal had closed. Private dinner at Seoul's most exclusive restaurant. 50 executives, expensive wine, too much self-congratulation. Joon-hyuk had specifically asked her to come. I want you there, he'd said. Just that. But it felt significant. Director Park got progressively drunker. His hand found Amara's shoulder 3 times. His comments became more personal. You're very exotic. Korean men must find you fascinating. So different from what we're used to. Amara removed his hand firmly. Director Park, you're drunk. Excuse me. She escaped to the balcony, breathing in cool night air, trying to calm the fury burning in her chest. Seoul stretched below, endless lights and motion. She felt very alone. You looked uncomfortable. She turned. Joon-hyuk had followed her out. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. He moved closer. Park is inappropriate when he drinks. I'll handle it. I don't need you to handle it. I can take care of myself. I know you can. But you shouldn't have to. Not the comments, not the questions, not the way people treat you like you're less than them because you're not Korean. You shouldn't have to prove yourself every single day just to be treated with basic respect. Welcome to my entire life. This isn't new, Joon-hyuk. It's just more visible. He moved closer still, close enough that she could feel his warmth in the cool air. It's not right. None of it is right. And I hate that I'm part of the reason you're dealing with it. You're not responsible for other people's racism. But I am responsible for not protecting you from it. They stood in silence, city lights glittering. Then Joon-hyuk said her name. Just that. Amara. It sounded different in his voice. Careful. Like holding something precious. She turned fully. He was so close. Close enough to see amber flecks in his dark eyes. Close enough that when he lifted his hand, his fingers barely brushed her cheek. We can't, she whispered, even as her heart hammered against her ribs. I know. This is temporary. I leave in 10 days. I know. Your company, your reputation, the board, the media. There are 100 reasons this is impossible. Tell me one that matters more than this. His voice was rough. More than the way I think about you constantly. More than the way every room feels empty until you walk into it. More than the fact that you're the first person in years who sees me, not just what I've built. Who makes me want to be someone worth knowing instead of just someone worth fearing. Amara's breath caught. Joon-hyuk. I know it's selfish. I know the world will judge you in ways it won't judge me. I know I'm asking you to risk things I'm not risking. But I can't pretend anymore. I can't pretend you're just my interpreter. That this is just professional. That I don't fall asleep thinking about you and wake up wanting to hear your voice. That I don't. The door crashed open. Minute G, panicked and apologetic. Mr. Kang, I'm so sorry, emergency. The Chinese delegation, they're threatening to pull out. They need you on the phone now. Joon-hyuk closed his eyes. Frustration and duty warring on his face. I'll be right there. He looked at Amara one more time. Something unspoken and desperate passing between them. Then he was gone. Amara gripped the railing, her whole body shaking. Because she felt it too. God help her, she felt everything he'd just confessed. And it terrified her. Make sure you're subscribed because what happens next is going to absolutely unravel you. The scandal broke at 3:47 a.m. Amara woke to her phone vibrating so violently it fell off the nightstand. Notifications flooded in. Hundreds per second. She grabbed it with shaking hands. The photo was from the balcony. Someone with a telephoto lens. Joon-hyuk's hand near her face. Her looking up at him. The distance between them measured in inches. It looked intimate. Undeniable. Like a moment before a kiss. Breaking, JH Corporation CEO in secret romance with African interpreter. Kang Joon-hyuk's shocking interracial affair exposed. Who is Amara Okoye? The Nigerian woman who captured Korea's most eligible bachelor. The articles multiplied exponentially. Korean sites. International news. Business sections. Entertainment gossip. Everyone had an opinion about something that hadn't even happened yet. She scrolled through comments, unable to stop, hating herself for looking. This is disgusting. He's betraying Korean women. She's obviously a gold digger. What else would she want from him? I can't believe he'd lower himself like this. Finally, some diversity. About time Korea opened up. Her skin is beautiful. They'd make gorgeous babies. This is why we need to protect Korean culture. Foreign influence is destroying us. Someone had found her Instagram. Her LinkedIn. Photos from university. Her mother's obituary, which they twisted into a narrative about a desperate woman seeking security after loss. Other photos surfaced. Her and Joon-hyuk leaving buildings. In the car. Walking into his office. Every professional moment reframed as evidence of an illicit affair. Her phone started ringing. Unknown numbers. Her father in Lagos. Her sisters. Friends. Former colleagues. Everyone wanted answers about a relationship that was barely a confession. By 5 a.m., she gave up trying to sleep. By 6 a.m., she was in Joon-hyuk's office. He was already there, tie loose, eyes bloodshot. His phone kept lighting up with calls he wasn't answering. Did you know they were watching us? Her voice was flat. I should have assumed. I've lived under cameras for years. I should have been more careful. This is my fault. It's not your fault that people are racist. But I knew how they'd react. And I still let myself get close to you. That was selfish. Before she could respond, the door opened. 3 board members walked in without knocking. Director Park. The CFO. The head of legal. Their faces were granite. Mr. Kang. We need to address this situation immediately. I'll leave, Amara said quietly. No. Joon-hyuk's voice was steel. Whatever they have to say, they can say in front of you. Director Park's expression hardened. Very well. The board convened at 5 a.m. This scandal is unacceptable. A CEO romantically involved with a temporary foreign employee? The power dynamic alone opens us to lawsuits. The racial component has our investors calling in panic. We're requesting Miss Okoye's contract be terminated effective immediately. We'll honor full payment, provide generous severance, write excellent references. But she leaves today. No, Joon-hyuk said flatly. This isn't negotiation. Your judgment has been compromised. We have a duty to protect this company and its shareholders. The optics are catastrophic. We're not asking you to end your personal relationship with Miss Okoye. We're asking you to be discreet. She leaves quietly, professionally, with dignity and money. Everyone wins. The CFO leaned forward. Your ex-fiancé's camp is already leaking statements. saying this explains why your engagement failed. That you couldn't commit to a Korean woman because you were involved with foreigners. The narrative is spiraling. Amara felt sick. Of course his ex was involved. Of course this would be used against him. Can I speak? She asked. Director Park looked at her like she was an insect he wanted to crush. I don't think. She speaks, Joon-hyuk interrupted sharply. Amara stood, forcing herself to meet their eyes. You're right about one thing. The optics are terrible. But not because of me specifically. The optics are terrible because your CEO valued someone you consider inferior. Because the idea that he might respect someone who doesn't look like you threatens everything you believe about who deserves power and who doesn't. You're not concerned about lawsuits or shareholders. You're concerned that I exist in a space you think belongs only to people who look like you. Miss Okoye, the legal head started. I'm not finished. I came to Korea to do a job. I've done it flawlessly. Saved this company tens of millions through accurate translation. But nothing I do will ever be enough because the problem isn't my competence. The problem is that I had the audacity to be excellent while black. To take up space while foreign. To be respected by someone you think should only respect you. Director Park's face reddened. How dare you? I'll leave, Amara continued, voice steady despite her shaking hands. Not because you're right. But because I won't stay where I'm not wanted. Where my presence is a liability instead of an asset. Where being the best at my job still isn't enough if I'm the best while African. She turned to Joon-hyuk. His face was pale, strained, tortured. What do you want? The question hung in the air. Everyone waiting. I want to tell them all to go to hell, he said quietly. I want to fight this. But they're right about one thing. You signed up for 6 weeks of translation work. Not photographers and death threats and people tearing apart your dead mother's memory in comment sections. You didn't ask for this circus. That's not what I asked. Amara's voice broke. I asked what you want. Not what's safe. Not what's convenient. What do you actually want? She saw the moment he made his choice. Saw duty winning over desire. Saw him choosing his empire over her. I want to protect you. Even if that means letting you go. Something inside Amara shattered into 1,000 pieces. Then I guess we're done here. She walked out. Out of the office. Out of the building. By noon, she'd packed. By 6 p.m., she was at the airport. By midnight, she was flying over the Pacific, Seoul disappearing behind her like a dream she'd never been meant to have. Lagos swallowed Amara whole. The heat, the noise, the chaos. Her family meant well, but their questions felt like interrogations. Her father wanted to know why she'd left early. Her sisters had seen the articles, shown them to everyone they knew. Her friends didn't understand why she seemed so devastated over a job. Because it wasn't just a job. It was the first time in years she'd felt seen. Really seen. Not as a competent professional or an exotic curiosity but as herself. Messy and brilliant and scared and brave. And she'd walked away from it. Or he'd let her walk away. She wasn't sure which hurt more. The first month, she worked manically. Took every contract offered. Translated documents until her eyes burned. Anything to stop thinking about a certain voice saying her name like a prayer. The second month, she stopped reading Korean news. Blocked websites. Unfollowed accounts. She needed to forget. But forgetting proved impossible. At night, memories ambushed her. His hand almost touching her face. The vulnerability when he talked about his father. The way he'd looked at her on that balcony like she was the only real thing in his manufactured world. She wondered if he thought about her. If he regretted his choice. If he'd already moved on to someone more appropriate. Someone Korean. Someone who fit. 8 months crawled by. Amara built a new life. New routine. New clients. She told herself she was fine. Some days she almost believed it. Then Minute G called. Miss Okoye? The voice was shaking. I'm so sorry to bother you. But Mr. Kang just called an emergency board meeting. He's making a public statement in 30 minutes. I think you need to watch. Amora's hands trembled as she opened her laptop. The live stream loaded. And there he was. Joon-hyuk stood before cameras and reporters, board members behind him looking furious. He looked thinner. Exhausted. But his voice was steady and clear. 8 months ago, I made the worst decision of my life. He was speaking in Korean, English subtitles appearing below. Not because I violated company protocol. I made the worst decision because I chose fear over truth. Because I stood by while someone extraordinary was torn apart for the crime of being different. Because I told myself I was protecting her when really I was protecting my own comfort. Cameras flashed. Questions erupted. He raised his hand for silence. Miss Amara Okoye was the most qualified interpreter this company has ever employed. She was professional, brilliant, and honest in a world that rewards none of those things. When I realized my feelings went beyond professional respect, I should have handled it with integrity and courage. Instead, I let this board pressure her into leaving. I let the media tear her apart. I stood silent while people who've never met her reduced her to headlines and racist commentary. His voice cracked slightly. Amora's vision blurred with tears. I told myself I was being noble, sacrificing for her well-being. But the truth is I was a coward. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of change. Afraid of building something real in a world that trades in appearances. I've spent 8 months learning that fear is the worst compass. It points you toward safety, never toward truth. He paused, looking directly into the camera. The truth is I've never met anyone who challenged me like she did. Who saw past the power and money and reputation to the person underneath. Who made me want to be better than the empire I built. Who made me believe that who I am matters more than what I own. The room was electric. Every reporter leaning forward. So I'm making this statement for 2 reasons. First, to publicly apologize to Amara Okoye for failing her when it mattered most. For choosing my position over her dignity. For being a coward when she needed me to be brave. And second, to announce my resignation as CEO of JH Corporation, effective end of quarter. The room exploded. Reporters shouting. Board members standing. But Joon-hyuk remained calm. I built this company from nothing. I'm proud of what we've accomplished. But I'm not proud of who I became. Someone who valued power over people. Control over connection. Someone who let the most honest person in his life walk away because he was too afraid to fight for what mattered. His eyes found the camera again. Amara, if you're watching this, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I hurt you in ways I can't undo. But I'm done being afraid. I'm done choosing wrong when I know what's right. I'm coming to find you. And this time, I'm choosing you. Not in spite of the consequences but because of them. Because you're worth every single thing I'll lose. Because loving you is the only brave thing I've ever done. The live stream cut off. Amara sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. Her phone rang immediately. He left right after the statement, Minute G said, voice thick with emotion. His flight lands in Lagos in 11 hours. Gate B7, Nigeria Air. I don't know if you want to see him, but I thought you should know. He's really coming, Amara. This time, he's really coming. 11 hours later, Amara stood in Murtala Mohammed International Airport at 6 a.m. She changed clothes 5 times. Settled on jeans and a simple top because she refused to dress up for someone who'd let her go once. But her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. She was terrified and hopeful and angry and desperate all at once. His flight had landed 40 minutes ago. Any moment now. Or maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe this was just another dramatic gesture from a man used to grand displays. Then she saw him. Joon-hyuk looked exhausted. Rumpled. More human than she'd ever seen. He was scanning the crowd desperately when his eyes found hers. He stopped dead. 3 meters between them. An ocean of people swirling past. An ocean of hurt and hope and history hanging in the air. I know I have no right to be here, he said, voice rough with emotion and jet lag. I know I hurt you. I know I chose wrong when it mattered. But I've spent 8 months learning to be brave enough for what I should have done from the start. Which is Her voice was barely a whisper. Fight for you. Fight for us. Not because it's easy or convenient or good for my reputation. But because you're the only honest thing that's happened to me in years. Because I'd rather have one real moment with you than a lifetime of perfect, empty ones without you. Because you taught me that being brave isn't about not being afraid. It's about choosing what matters even when you're terrified. You gave up everything. I gave up nothing that mattered. Power, position, reputation. None of that means anything if I'm hollow inside. You made me feel human again. You made me want to be someone worth loving instead of just someone worth fearing. I'm still the same person. Nigerian. Different. Not part of your world. Then help me build a different world. He took a step closer. One where we don't have to choose between love and belonging. Where different doesn't mean impossible. I'm not asking you to make this easy. I'm not asking you to forget what I did or trust me immediately. I'm asking for a chance to prove I've changed. That I can be the man who chooses you every single day for the rest of my life. What if it doesn't work? What if the world is still too loud, too cruel? What if we try and fail? Then at least we'll have tried together. And maybe that's all love really is. Choosing each other over fear. Again and again. Until choosing each other becomes who we are instead of what we do. Amara's eyes were blurred with tears. This is crazy. Completely insane. We're going to face so much judgment. So much hate. I know. And this time I'm ready. Because I'm not facing it alone. And neither are you. He took another step. Close enough now that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. The determination. The hope. You might regret this, she whispered. Never. His hand came up slowly, giving her time to move away. She didn't. His palm cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear. I regret a lot of things, Amara. I regret letting you walk away. I regret choosing fear over love. I regret every single day of the last 8 months. But fighting for you, choosing you, that's the only thing I've done right in my entire life. She kissed him. Right there in the arrivals terminal at Lagos Airport, with hundreds of people streaming past, with all their impossible maybes and complicated realities hanging in the air. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a fairy tale. But it was real. And real was everything. 3 years later, they stood in a different airport. Seoul, this time. Joon-hyuk beside her, fingers intertwined. They'd spent those years building something new together. A consulting firm specializing in cross-cultural business relations. Equal partners. Real partners. The media had been brutal at first. Then fascinated. Now, slowly, understanding that some love stories don't fit neat categories. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to make yourself smaller for other people's comfort. They still faced judgment. Still got stares. Still read horrible comments from people who couldn't imagine their relationship as anything but scandal. But they'd learned something crucial. Love doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for the world to be ready. It simply is. Loud and fierce and undeniable. Their company was thriving. They'd helped dozens of businesses navigate cultural differences. Built bridges between worlds that seemed impossible to connect. Proved that understanding matters more than comfort. Ready? Joon-hyuk asked, squeezing her hand. Amara smiled. Always. They walked through Seoul's airport together. Not CEO and interpreter. Not Korean and Nigerian. Not scandal and controversy. Just 2 people who'd been brave enough to build something real in a world that often settles for performance. And in the end, maybe that was the most revolutionary act of all. Choosing love. Choosing each other. Choosing to believe that different could mean beautiful instead of impossible. If this story unraveled you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which moment broke your heart. Subscribe right now because there's so much more to their story and you won't want to miss what comes next. Their journey is just beginning. Sometimes the best love stories aren't about finding someone who fits your world perfectly. They're about finding someone worth rebuilding your world for. Someone who makes you braver than you thought possible. Someone who reminds you that the only thing scarier than change is staying the same when you know you deserve better. Amara and Joon-hyuk chose change. Chose courage. Chose each other. Against every odd. Against every expectation. Against everyone who said it was impossible. And they proved that love doesn't need to explain itself to be real. It just needs to be brave enough to exist. Even when the world says it shouldn't. Especially then.